Hello, my name is Eric Patterson. I'm a scientist and a botanist here at Michigan State University. And like any botanist, I have a favorite plant. I've spent the last 15 years of my life studying this plant. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars sequencing and assembling its genome. And I've grown hundreds of this plant in the laboratory doing wicked science experiments on it. I talk about this plant any chance I get, like today. So thank you for being here. So what is this plant? Is it some rare flower from the jungles of Madagascar that I plucked? Or maybe a more practical plant like corn or soybean that feeds billions of people around the world? No, it's neither of those. It's this little guy. His name is kochia. And many of you probably don't recognize kochia immediately, but I guarantee you've seen it before. You've seen it in the first few moments of a movie like The Big Lebowski, or in any spaghetti western shootout. That's right. I love the infamous tumbleweed as it blows across the high, dry plains of the West. But it hasn't always been this way. I got interested in this plant when I got a job as a weed science researcher at Colorado State University. I was hired to study this new phenomena called glyphosate resistance. And it was during that time that I learned how resilient this plant is. I learned how it can resist dry weather, cold, salt, and most importantly, herbicides. I learned how it causes millions of dollars of damage for sugar beet growers and wheat growers of the West, and just how important it is for the economy. It was during my 4 years in my PhD that I realized something, that I went from never thinking about weeds to thinking about them all the time. And I went from not really liking weeds to absolutely loving them. So my perspective on this plant had inverted. Now I've been a researcher here at Michigan State for 7 years. I am a weed scientist. And in my time here, I've got to interact with lots of different scientists. And a lot of their subject matters are even stranger or more esoteric than mine. Some of them are never more excited than when they're walking through a cornfield and they see little black spots growing on their corn leaves. Or maybe we're walking through the forest and they get really excited about some yellow growth growing on the side of a tree. My very own wife will spend her nights and weekends digging up dirt, separating out seeds, germinating them, and wondering what they'll become. What is with all of these scientists? Why are we so weird? Why do we like these strange things, fungi and plants? Well, I argue it's not the strangeness that attracted us. There's something about the act of doing science that leads to this sort of passion. But why? Well, science is about curiosity. It's about asking questions. In the formal sense, we are taught that science is asking a question, developing a hypothesis, most people call that an educated guess, then collecting data, doing experiments, drawing some sort of conclusion, and then revising that hypothesis, right? So science is this ever-growing, ever-changing body of knowledge. But what's really special about science is it's not about collecting facts in the world, it's about changing your perspective on how knowledge is obtained. Now, science is a natural process. We were all scientists. If you look at a child and how it learns about the world, children have hundreds or thousands of questions, and they are constantly developing hypotheses and testing them. What's going to happen if I drop a glass cup? Will it bounce or will it break? I'm going to test that over and over and over again until I understand how the world works. And it doesn't stop when you're a child. As you develop into an adult, you continue to ask questions, but the topics get more cerebral. For instance, have you ever asked a Detroit Lions fan how they think the team will do that year? They're going to present you a series of past observations, statistics, and impressions that they're going to develop their own hypothesis on how the team will perform. That's right. Your fantasy football league is your own hypothesis. So, what I've gone through is that having curiosity, asking questions, collecting knowledge is somehow satisfactory, and you gain a passion for the things that you ask questions about. But why would a person want to become knowledgeable, and why would they want to develop this kind of passion? Well, being knowledgeable and passionate is often ranked amongst the most attractive qualities that a person can have. When you talk about things that you know a lot about and that you're passionate about, you tend to get more energetic, more excited, more interested. And we look for those traits in our partners and our friends. If you've ever been stuck in a conversation with someone who doesn't have that interest and passion, who doesn't have any curiosity or questions for you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The other way that this scientific thinking can help you in your day-to-day life is it makes you more savvy. It protects you from the world, from those who want to take advantage of your ignorance, right? So in Korea, they have this expression, the more you know, the harder it is to believe. Check, check, hello. So in Korea, they have this expression, the more you know, the harder it is to believe. You're used to asking questions and collecting data about the world. You understand the way things work and what fits and what doesn't fit. The last way scientific thinking can help you is it makes you more grounded in reality, what's happening around you. How many of you have had the experience of maybe walking to class or walking somewhere and you're thinking about a difficult conversation you had the night before, or you're thinking about a test coming up? By taking a moment and looking around, maybe looking down and seeing a weed on the ground, maybe you take a moment and you ask yourself, oh, why is that there? What is that plant? You can use your senses, you can use your eyes, you can use your smell, you can collect data about that plant. And all of a sudden, you're not thinking about that conversation or that test anymore. You are standing there looking at that weed in that moment. So I think being a scientist in your day-to-day life can have many advantages. I think it makes you more interesting and attractive person. I think it makes you more shrewd and savvy. And I think it makes you more grounded and real. So what am I getting at in my talk? Well, my take-home message is I want you all to go out there and be curious. I want you to ask questions and gain knowledge and gain that passion for yourself. Most importantly, I want you all to not be afraid to get into the weeds. Thank you.